Food traded for sex, young women raped and children abandoned. A new report implicates United Nations peacekeepers in years of abuse in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, apparently largely targeting civilians who are living in destitution.
I lost my daughter who died while she was pregnant. A UN soldier met her pregnant and I have no place to claim my rights. I asked the government to expel this UN mission from our country. In my heart there is a wound, and if I saw these peacekeepers, I would stone them.
My daughter went to them to ask for a job. Finding a job was difficult, so she started cooking for them. After a few days later, she was raped. My daughter is desperate. She now has psychological problems.
We are not going to be discouraged. We will continue to ask for the departure of the UN mission because we know that it has no business here. Since they arrived in the DRC, they have not produced anything. They just rape our sisters and our mothers. They must leave.
The report is based on 2,500 interviews, many with girls and women who claim to have been raped by the United Nations peacekeepers, with children ultimately conceived as a result. RT correspondent Karabola Tatler brings us details.
Shocking levels of poverty, displacement, brutal attacks by armed groups and fighting. The Democratic Republic of Congo is one of the world's poorest and most war-torn countries in the world. However, to add salt to an already bleeding wound, a recent report claims that the United Nations peacekeepers, which have been in that African country for 20 years, have raped young women, traded food for sex, fathered and abandoned thousands of children in the DRC. Allegations of sexual exploitation and abuse among UN peacekeeping missions are nothing new. Yet no systematic research on paternity linked to MONUSCO, that's the UN mission in the DRC, has apparently been carried out until now. Researchers interviewed one girl who alleges she was trafficked by her family and impregnated by soldiers when she was only 10 years old. She's now 16, and this is her recollection of what happened.
I was very young, just 10 years old. I realized later on that I was sold out by my aunt. The men were buying beer in the pub to share it with me.
The research also says the youngest girl that they interviewed that was impregnated by a UN peacekeeper was just 10 years old, and that 1 in every 2 mothers were under the age of 18 when they conceived. According to the report, many children were left abandoned and hence fatherless.
My father left my mother while she was pregnant. She gave birth after he was already gone. People disturb and hurt me so much. They say they will chase me because I'm a foreigner. I'm suffering.
The UN database of allegations contains over 400 reported incidents of peacekeeper-fathered babies since 2007. The report is based on almost 3,000 interviews with members of the Congolese community and implicates UN personnel from 12 countries. Although the report points out the lack of prosecution for these offenses by peacekeepers due to their immunity, the UN says that it strongly condemns the behavior of those who violate and undermine the values of the organization by abusing and exploiting those who are looking to the UN for protection. But the number of the victims of this horrendous abuse can be hard to count.
There are potentially thousands of children left behind by peacekeepers in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Part of the problem is that some of those deployed seem to be treating these missions as an opportunity for sex tourism and sexual crimes that they are unlikely to commit in their home countries.
This all came to light after a number of violent protests against UN peacekeeping forces in the eastern DRC, amid calls for the UN to withdraw from the area. 15 people have been killed in anti-UN protests in the last week, in attacks that UN Chief Antonio Guterres said could constitute a war crime. The government has been trying to get the mission to leave since 2010, and the UN has been in the process of drawing down the operations since 2020. Protesters, meanwhile, say they want the UN to leave because it failed to protect civilians.
There is a kind of distraction with the UN peacekeepers who are enjoying life. They are partying almost every day, going to bars, meeting with prostitutes. And that's the issue here in DRC. So that's why several peacekeepers have forgotten their real mission is to promote peace, not to have more kids and abandon them in DRC. That's not one of their mission. That can end if the UN can be very strict and can also discipline its troops because, without discipline, this cannot end.